Welcome to the Nightmare DF Brontes tanking guide. I will be occasionally pausing the video to explain fight mechanics. I will also be using cardinal directions. These will be in reference to the minimap. For example, the entrance to the instance is the northwest corner. I also recommend hotkeying target markers as they will be extremely useful during this fight. This video will go over both tanks' jobs. For simplicity's sake, I will call the tanking job from the first video the main tank, and the tanking job from the second video the off tank. Disclaimer: both videos include me on my Sin and my co-tank also on a Sin. I in no way believe that you have to be on a Sin in order to kill Brontes successfully. I have killed Brontes on non-Sin tanks and with non-Sin tanks. You should bring whichever tanking class you are most comfortable with. The real challenge of this fight is properly using defensive cooldowns, something which comes with practice and familiarity with your class. That said, I have the most experience with Brontes on my Sin, so that's why she's in both videos. After you engage Brontes, two hands will spawn. I mark the right hand with lightning and begin tanking it. In this video, the DPS burn the hands down evenly. This makes the tank swap easy since both hands attune at the same time. The off-tank video will show another method for this phase, so I will not go over it at this time. If you use the shown method, be careful with your taunts. Be sure to save your third taunt for the tank swap. This means that you will only have 2 taunts to use for the initial part of the fight. I guard the melee DPS who is on my hand since this is the only person fighting me for aggro. The ranged DPS kill the fingers first. The hands attune when they are at 79%. The right hand gives a brown claw debuff and the left hand gives a green claw debuff every time they slam you. After a hand attunes, anyone with that hand's debuff will receive a new debuff, which makes it so that the hand will give more damage. This forces a tank swap. In Nightmare, they will pop up in random spots around the room after they attune. Thus, I stand still or stay near the middle of the room until they emerge. I run over and taunt the left hand to prevent it from slamming the off tank and the rest of the raid. Orbs spawn periodically during this phase and will be aggroed on DPS. If you use your AoE taunt for aggro or tank swapping, first make sure there are no orbs around before you use it. If you accidentally taunt an orb, use Force Shroud or Saber Reflect before eating it, or wait for the orb's stacking buff to reach 17 to 18 stacks. You can eat it around 15 stacks, but you'll also need to use a powerful cooldown if you want to survive. Fingers will also spawn periodically during this phase. They are on a set timer. The fingers will enrage after being up for so long, so make sure the DPS actually kill the fingers rather than leaving them at 0% health. The hands attune again when they hit 59%. Try to delay this so that the debuff from your original hand falls off shortly before you have to pick the original hand back up again. If you still have the debuff when you pick up your first hand, definitely pop cooldowns. You can be easily killed by an 82k hit while having the debuff. The hands attune for one final time when they hit 40% and we enter the first transition phase. During this phase, 2 reaches will spawn. They will look at one another and shoot lightning around themselves and between one another. The lightning between the reaches will one-shot you while the lightning around the reaches will just hurt. Save speed boost for avoiding the lightning. I head to the north side of the room while the rest of the group stays in the south side. This way, when I pick up Brontes, her cleave from Arching Assault does not hit the rest of the raid. She will give you up to 4 stacks of a purple debuff. This debuff increases your damage taken, so the off-tank should pick up Brontes once her cast finishes. If you are on a Sin and spec'd into the Force Shroud after stealth utility, you can stealth out during Brontes' cast and then immediately taunt her before she casts Arching Assault. This way you'll have Force Shroud up for the entire length of her cast and will not receive any stacks of the debuff. Kefis will spawn on the east, west, or south sides of the room. Immediately pick him up and point him away from the raid. He will start spamming frontal cleave attacks once his channel charge finishes. When Kefis is sub 50%, he will leap into the air and land on one random raid member. This person will gain a giant red circle. My group has this person run to the east or west sides of the room so that when Kefis lands, he doesn't land on anyone other than the intended target. Additionally, Kefis should still be on the main tank, who should be picking up Brontes at this point. If Kefis is on the south side of the room, he will have to run straight through the group to get to the main tank, all while spamming his cleave attack. So it is best for him to land on the east or west sides of the map. Optimally, Kefis should die before Brontes' Arching Assault cast to help reduce the main tank's damage taken during the cast. If you lose aggro on Kefis after he leaps, don't taunt him back since you need to save your taunts for the next Kefis. Instead, your off-tank should pick him up and point him away from the raid. Another Kefis will spawn. Again, I pick him up and run back to Brontes once Kefis leaps into the air. Try not to cleave your off-tank too much when bringing Kefis to Brontes, as they will probably already be low from Brontes' channel. Orbs begin to spawn once Brontes hits 65%. DPS should be expected to eat the orbs since the burn from 65% to when Brontes transitions to the next phase at 49% is too long for tanks to cheese all of the orbs. Additionally, tanks are already taking a lot of damage from Brontes and Kefis, so the extra orb damage might be too much for the healers to handle. That said, you can help out the DPS with the orbs by stunning, pushing, pulling, or CCing the orbs. If done correctly, these abilities can help DPS maximize their time on Brontes rather than forcing the DPS to stand off in a corner waiting for their orb to gain more stacks. Do not use these abilities on orbs that have more than 15 stacks. The orbs will blow up at 20 stacks, giving massive raid-wide damage. Your interfering with the orb may prevent the DPS from eating it in time. If Brontes is close to 50% and a Kefis is about to spawn, hold off on DPSing Brontes until the new Kefis is dead. You do not want to enter the next phase with an active Kefis. Brontes begins her clock phase once she hits 49%. I run to the east side of the map while the other tank moves to the west. 2 droids will spawn on each side. Their aggro will be based on proximity. If you do not deliberately try to stay close to the droids, they will most likely aggro to squishy DPS or even squishier healers. If that happens, the healers will be busy healing whoever has the droids aggro rather than helping kill the droids. The droids do respect taunts if they do not immediately aggro on you. Brontes' beam can go clockwise or counterclockwise. Since the beam is going clockwise, the DPS jump to my droid and kill it. The droids have to die before the beam reaches them or the droid will explode, wiping the raid. Try to pump out as much DPS during this phase to prevent this from happening. Once the clock phase is over, swap your guard to a healer. The DPS will not be competing with you for aggro for the rest of the fight, and the healers need the reduced threat from the guard for the final phase of Brontes. During this phase and the next phase, do not stand in the purple circles. They will do more and more damage as the fight goes on. Pick up one of the hands. They will start spamming Forceful Slam, which knocks you back. This ability will also destroy any orbs within the hand's conal. Use this to your advantage. One orb will spawn either from the north or south corners of your half of the room. Use Forceful Slam to smash the orbs. Try to stay as close to the hand as possible to make it easier to swap which corner of the room the hand is pointing. Each successful knockback from Forceful Slam will push you further and further back from the hand. So use leaps and speed boosts to get back to the hand. Since I have done this fight a lot, I know where to position the hand so that it smashes the orbs behind me. I watch the opposite corners so that I can quickly swap the hand to that corner if the orb spawns there. You can also watch your minimap to see where the next orb is spawning. Don't jump into the air while the hand slams you. This will cause the hand to knock you even further back than it would have normally. The hand should die close together. Brontes will spawn inside an invincibility bubble. She will be healing herself up, so either you or a DPS should apply a trauma debuff to lessen how much she heals herself. Once this cast is over, she will pick up whoever has the highest aggro, stun them, and knock them back. The knockback will reset their threat on her to 0. If you are on a PT, you can hydraulics to avoid the knockback. She will still stun you and reduce your threat on her. Jugs will have to position themselves carefully so that they get knocked in an optimal direction, preferably towards the hand that they are going to tank, but not into one of the corners, as an orb may spawn there and one-shot you. Sins can stealth out while Brontes is still in her bubble so that they don't get stunned or knocked at all. In any case, you will not be stunned or knocked back during the rest of the fight since you will be busy dealing with the hands and the orbs, not giving you enough time to build up sufficient threat on Brontes to become the top threat. You will get stunned and knocked if you taunt Brontes, of course, so be careful with your AoE taunts. I pick up the hand which is closest to the entrance. This is also the hand which is the closest to the rest of the raid, which means that any orbs that spawns in the northwest corner must be immediately killed with the hand slam. You can also eat the orb if you mess up, but that will most likely require using cooldowns that you will need later in the fight. The hand slam still hurts, so pop cooldowns as needed. Do not push the hand past 7%. Once you get 6 stacks, the blue stacking debuff, you and the DPS should push the hand to 5%. At this point, the hand will spawn a shield which cleanses the stacking debuff. This debuff increases your damage taken, so it is important to cleanse it. If necessary, pull in orbs while the healers top you off. Any orbs eaten under the shield will not hurt, regardless of the number of stacks on the orb. Therefore, this is a great time to get rid of any orbs. Pick up the far hand so that the off-tank can get under the shield and cleanse their stacks. Smash any remaining orbs that aren't near your shielded group. You don't want to accidentally knock back your group while trying to kill an orb. Again, do not push this hand past 7%. Smash as many orbs as you can. You are now responsible for orbs coming from the northeast, southeast, and southwest corners. The off-tank will take care of the northwest corner. Priority should go to orbs from the southeast corner, but don't forget about the other 2 corners. It is very easy for a main tank to forget about a corner, have an orb spawn from that corner, reach 20 stacks, and explode, leading to the raid having to wipe. When you reach 7 stacks of the debuff, the hand should be pushed to 5%. Again, a shield will spawn which you need to stay under for its full duration. Try to pull in as many orbs into the shield during this part of the fight. I often mark orbs and call out who they are aggroed on so that the DPS know which ones they need to eat. If you have a PT DPS in the group, tell them to pull in the orbs. When the shield disappears, eat any remaining orbs. If there is any time when there aren't any orbs out or all of your taunts are on cooldowns, you should help DPS Brontes. Don't forget to use grenades on her since they do a lot of damage. Be very careful with your taunts during this part of the fight. It is easy to accidentally AoE taunt Brontes when you are trying to eat some of the orbs. You should try to eat the orbs when they are at more than 15 stacks, preferably around 18. Again, they will explode at 20, dealing massive raid-wide damage. Letting an orb explode is what causes most groups to wipe during this phase. I am in charge of any orbs on the east side of the room, while the off-tank takes care of the west side. Again, use CC, stuns, pushes, and pulls to keep the orbs away from the raid. The orbs do AoE damage, so don't stand too close to them unless you're about to eat it. That said, try to stay within healer's range so that they can still heal you. There is a lot of damage going out, and the healers do not have time to run around the room chasing down tanks. Sins can eat the orbs at any number of stacks and take no damage by using Force Shroud. You can also spec into a utility that gives you Force Shroud after stealthing out so that you can eat extra orbs. The timing for eating orbs while you have the stealth out shroud available is very tight. Stand next to the orb you want to eat, stealth out, and immediately taunt the orb. The orb will pause while it switches aggro to you, so that's why you want to stand near it so that you can eat the orb while you still have shroud up. I also recommend speccing into the extra long shroud utility. Similarly, Jugs can use Saber Reflect to eat an orb at any number of stacks. Jugs can also eat orbs while using Mad Dash. This requires very precise timing and skill. Sadly, PTs don't have any orb cheese abilities, so strategically use your cooldowns when eating orbs. Once you run out of taunts, start marking the orbs and tell DPS if and when they need to eat the marked orb. Having said all that, let me explain what I do here. Even though I was DPSing Brontes, I have been watching the orbs on the eastern side of the room. No orbs have spawned from the southeast corner, and the orbs from the northeast corner are getting close to exploding. So I force speed over, pop Force Shroud, and use an AoE taunt to pick up the closest two orbs. I move to the southernmost orb as that orb is about to explode. Then I run into the next southernmost orb. Finally, I stealth out to gain Shroud again and taunt the remaining orb. Since all the orbs are gone, I go back to the south side of the room and continue DPSing Brontes. And with that, Brontes is dead. Here you can see one of the Jugs use Mad Dash while eating an orb. Now it's time for the off-tank guide. Just like in the other video, the off-tank will need to pick up one of the hands. The method we use here is have the DPS all burn down one hand rather than burn both hands evenly. This is easier for the DPS since they don't need to kill both hands at the same time. That said, this method can cause tanks to have to pick up a hand while they still have the hand's increased damage taken debuff. If this happens, pop powerful cooldowns to prevent being one-shot. The other hand attunes and the main tank picks up my hand. I run over to the other hand and tank it until it attunes again. I run back to my original hand while the main tank goes back to his original hand. The DPS kill the fingers and the far hand before killing the hand that I'm tanking. My hand attunes and I go help kill fingers while the main tank picks up the hand. It attunes and it is once again my turn to tank it. Fingers spawn right before reaches come out. If this happens, you can help kill the fingers, but be very mindful of the reaches. You don't want to make the healers waste a combat res because you weren't paying attention. I stay on the south side of the map while the main tank stays on the north side. This way, I will not receive any stacks from Brontes' first arching assault. After her cast, I pick up Brontes while the main tank chases after the Kephis. After Kephis lands, be very careful to stay out of Kephis's cleave, especially if you have the debuff from Brontes. Kephis can easily kill you if you have the debuff. After the main tank receives all of the arching assault cast, pick up Brontes again and keep her pointed away from the raid. Continue doing this until Brontes transitions to the next phase. You can also pick up Kephis after he jumps if the main tank loses aggro. If you do, make sure you keep Kephis pointed away from the group. If you stack Kephis on top of Brontes, your DPS will be very happy since they can dot spread. Brontes transitions at 49%. If you can, eat any orbs that are on DPS so that they can focus on DPSing the droids. I head to the western side of the map while the main tank moves to the eastern side. Again, this is done to pick up the aggro from the droids, as their initial aggro is based on proximity. Brontes' beam moves clockwise, so I position myself so that I am the closest person to the droid which spawns on the northern side of the map. When I see the droids start attacking me, I move further south to help DPS the adds there. The healers stun and CC the northern adds so that I take less damage and they can DPS rather than heal me. I also transfer my guard to one of the healers. I pick up the eastern hand and use it to smash orbs. As I stated earlier, I position the hand so that it smashes any orbs behind me. I watch the opposite corner for when orbs spawn there so that I can quickly turn the hand around and smash the orb. The hands die together and Brontes begins healing. I stealth out and wait for the hand to spawn on the southeast corner. I use this hand to smash orbs that spawn on the eastern side of the room. Stop DPSing the hand when it hits 8% health. If you position the hand carefully, you can smash 2 orbs at once. The other hand is pushed, the main tank comes over to pick up my hand, and I phase walk to get under the shield and cleanse my stacking debuff. If you are on a PT or a jug, you can leap to this hand to get under the shield quicker. Once the shield disappears, I help DPS Brontes while watching the northwest corner. An orb spawns and I run over to take care of it. This way, the DPS can focus on burning Brontes rather than worry about the orbs. We reach 4 stacks and slowly start bringing Brontes to the southern side of the room. We push the hand and get under the shield. Try to pull in any orbs that are within 30 meters during this phase. The DPS said that he would eat the orb marked with lightning, so I ignore it and focus on the newly spawned western orb. I eat it and turn around to help kill Brontes since there aren't any orbs that are nearby or have high enough stacks. Even though I'm DPSing Brontes, I continue to watch where orbs are spawning on the western side. I do notice the orb that spawns in the northwest corner. I stop DPSing Brontes and knock back the orb that has a low number of stacks and is getting too close to the raid. I run over to the more northern orb, pop a cooldown, and eat the orb at 18 stacks. I go to kill myself by eating one final orb, but it kills me before I can. Dying during this phase is very common. Just take out as many orbs with you as you can. After you die, mark orbs and call out who they are on and when the person needs to eat them. It is still your responsibility to make sure no orb reaches 20 stacks and explodes. And with that, Brontes and the rest of the raid are dead for the Empire.